Welcome to the Weekly Leadership Experience, a place for leaders to get inspired, be challenged, and grow. I am your host, Reshad Oberlander. Let's get started. Before we get started today, I wanted to share a 5-star rating and review from Alberta Hiking Bear. Valuable and inspiring. I'm looking forward to your future podcasts. The episodes I've listened to are truly valuable and inspiring. Thank you so much for this review. I really appreciate it. Guys, I'd love to share some future reviews, so if you haven't already, make sure you head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, give me a rating, and give me a review, and I might even be able to feature your review on a future episode of the Weekly Leadership Experience. And now, on with the show. Imagine standing in a sandy arena. Just you and a wild beast. Hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of raw power, intelligence, and will to live. One strike of a limb could leave you seriously injured. The hot sun beats on your back, and the only sounds are the scuffing of sand, the heavy breathing of the beast across from you, and the thump, thump, thump of your own heartbeat in your ears. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I'm so glad you're here. The story I just told is a bit of a dramatic elaboration on some things that I got to experience when I was younger pursuing my business working with horses. And it's describing a scenario where I had the opportunity of learning how to work with a horse and take it from being a wild animal to being more gentle and sort of domesticated. And I was able to work with some folks that brought in some wild horses from Australia's outback and bring them in. And there was a team that came over from the United States who had experience in gentling and natural horsemanship. And they taught us in a workshop format how to approach horses and to speak their language. And, you know, this was already a subject that I was interested in and had been pursuing as part of the business that I was in. And that was, natural horsemanship and natural horse care and learning how to work with horses. Because as you can imagine, when you're working day in and day out with horses, and these animals are very large and they could definitely injure you, and they come with all kinds of, behavioral and attitude kind of things from time to time, you got to be able to work with them and kind of get through to the horse in a way that it makes sense to them. So I had this opportunity. And traditionally, working with a horse and training it, taking it from untrained to trained, is called breaking in. And maybe that term is outdated now, but, maybe people are calling it something else. But no disrespect to anyone in this business, but, the term breaking in is less than endearing. It sounds quite harsh, and, I think that there's a better word to be used, but, really, you break in a new pair of shoes. I personally wouldn't use it in reference to anything that is living. So coming back to what I learned, the method that we were taught was just simply called gentling, to gentle the horse. And it was you getting in a ring with this horse that had been brought in from the outback, and for all extents and purposes, it was a wild animal, similar to the Mustang or something like that. Maybe it's seen some humans from time to time, but they're really not interacting. They're still very frightened and very much, a wild animal. So you're getting in the ring with this animal, and you're needing to get across to it your good intentions and your authority and your right to be there. And some of the horses are more aggressive and some of them are more calm. But really, you're trying to get to a point where you can approach that horse without it taking off and running away from you. And so you're in the ring with this horse and you are interacting with it as another horse would. So you're trying to speak the language that makes sense to that horse. You're not speaking predator language because, we as humans, we walk upright on our hind legs, we smile with our teeth, which are all characteristics of predators. The only other animals in the animal world that smile with their teeth are generally ones that want to eat you. So you have to learn to speak the language that the horse understands. And you want to speak the language from the point of view of I'm the horse that has the authority. So you're speaking as a horse that's higher up in the hierarchy of a herd. And you want to get the horse to accept your authority and your good intentions, that you're not there to hurt it, that you're not there to cause it harm. And you have to understand, too, that the horse that you're dealing with may not be the same as the next horse that you deal with, the horse before. They're not going to all respond the same way, and they are going to require slightly different tactics or persistence or determination. So each horse will be different. The outcome of it is once you get to the point where you've earned the trust of the horse, that you have gotten it to turn from being purely wild and kind of in that fear and flight mechanic to turning in and being willing to accept you being there and accept that your intentions are good and accept that you're there to help it, then you have built that foundation of mutual trust and respect. And that mutual trust is exchanged because of the way that you interact with it. And the bond that you create with the horse is often very strong, and you're able to bring it to the point where you're touching it and grooming it, and in often a very short span of time. And I'd say short span of time, it could be hours and hours and hours, or over the course of several days. But you get the horse to the point where it accepts your leadership, it accepts your authority, it accepts you being there, and it accepts your touch. And this bond is then very strong. Now, people are not wild animals, and I would never draw that direct line. But the experience that I had with horses and how you interact with the horse, I think, is a great illustration about several important points about leadership and what it means to lead. And I'm sure you may have drawn already some of your own conclusions in that experience to leadership and maybe the way that you lead. And some of the points that are in this story that I'd like to bring up are that leaders need to be conscious, not to break people, but to build them up. And I use the word break because it is a sharp word. And it is to the point that our actions and behaviors and attitudes and emotions as leaders have the capacity to really impact people. And they can be harmful. They can cause people to break, quote unquote break. And that, the harm and the damage can be quite severe in some cases. So be conscious of what you're doing with your team, and take a moment for self-reflection and examine what you're doing. And if you come to the realization that what you're doing is not working and that is in fact more harmful than it is good, then I would suggest that you change that and look for ways to build your team up, not break them down. Being a leader is about one life influencing another for good. And that means that as much as you might be a team, you might have a large team, you might have a very diverse team, you might have a multifaceted team, and you might be working across different levels of the organization. But at the end, you are often interacting with one person at a time, and you need to be able to influence that person for good, and that one person at a time. Leadership is not about exerting your dominance for control, but demonstrating the right attitudes, actions, and behaviors to draw your team in. And this is all about building relationship with your team, establishing your intentions and your goodwill towards them, and establishing the relationship that is going to help you move forward as a team. Leadership is not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it must be tailored to each individual. Each member on your team is as different from each other as an elephant and a petunia. And you can thank my wife for that analogy. But it is true. One person's needs are very different to another person's needs. And if you try to approach each person the same, it's just a recipe for disaster, because they will not respond the same. They will not, move forward the same way. They're all going to learn and grow at different speeds, and you have to be able to meet them where they are. Trust and respect is a two-way street. It is a reciprocal relationship, and you need to come to the table with the openness to learn from the person in front of you, and you need to be able to be open to teach them something as well. And it works both ways, but you need to have that, authenticity and vulnerability to meet them there, and that that trust and respect works both ways. So these are some of the things that I have extracted from that story in my life that I believe is what it means to lead. That really being a leader and what it means to lead is one life impacting another for good. That your attitudes, actions, and behaviors have great impact. As always, Feel free to reach out to me at Reshad@ReshadOberlander.com, share your feedback and thoughts on today's episode, as well as reach out to me on SpeakPipe.com/Reshad Oberlander, where you can leave me a voice recording of a question or a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and some of those comments might even get featured on a future episode. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, would you head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, leave me a rating, leave me a review, and share this with a friend. It spreads the word and helps the podcast grow. You can also find me on social media at RE Oberlander. Until next time, stay awesome.